Russ Rogers here from the 17 Law Studio, and today we're going to talk about communication, more about communication, which is one of my favorite topics. I've yet to meet a couple who hasn't said they would like to improve their communication skills. And I'm not kidding when I say that I'm going to share with you some things that will change your life and your marriage. So please email me or call me a liar if this turns out not to be true, because it will change your marriage and change your life. I wish every couple on earth could watch the previous show and watch this one. And when you find yourself at each other's throats and are sitting back wondering, how in the world did we get to this point? Well, it's because of communication, most likely. You told your spouse one thing and the opposite happened, and you have no idea. Well, that's because we have to learn to communicate. It's as if one of us is speaking Mandarin and the other is speaking Swahili. And it goes something like this. Like in my mind, I said, "Hey, Tracy, would you like to go out to dinner?" And Tracy hears something like, "So you don't like my cooking?" Well, how does this stuff happen? Well, today we'll recap the last show and take a much deeper dive into communication, and you'll not want to miss this. Before we jump into another communication topic, let's recap what we just discussed last show. First of all, we're always communicating. You're communicating with your body language, your money, and all your actions. If you tell me you love spending time with me and you never spend time with me, then I'll not believe that you really want to spend time with me, because your actions will show me more about you than your words. This means that people believe more of what they see than what they hear. So if I ask Tracy if she wants to go to my favorite restaurant and it's written all over her face that she doesn't want to go, well, she may be willing to go because she's so sweet and she'll tell me she wants to go, but I can tell by her body language and facial expressions that she wants to go anywhere but there. So we believe more of what we see than what we hear. And in this case, Tracy's communicating to me that she does not want to go to that restaurant. We also discussed love languages. And remember, I don't pay attention to Tracy's love language because I feel an obligation or I feel guilty if I don't. I do it because I love her. I want what's best for her. And it's important. If it is important to her, it is important to me. And here are the 5 languages that we talked about: receiving gifts, quality time, words of affirmation, acts of service, physical touch. And since I went into some detail on each one, you want to go back and watch the show sooner than later. My main point is that we are all different. How we were made to receive love doesn't make us better or worse than our spouse, just different. What we have to do is recognize each other's differences, pay attention to how our spouse is made to receive love, realizing that it is most likely not how you were made to receive love. Tracy's is quality time. So if I don't spend quality time with Tracy, then no matter what else I do, I won't make her feel loved. If I do all the dishes, all the laundry, detail her car, iron her clothes, mop and vacuum the entire house, buy her a $100 gift card to Chick-fil-A, and paint the house, while all that is awesome and will be appreciated, it won't make her feel loved, because God made her to feel loved by spending time with her. So for me, I could do maybe one of those things. Let's just say I detailed her car and then spent the evening with just the two of us. Then she would feel loved. All to say, pay attention to your spouse's love language. And on this topic of communication, you will be communicating to your spouse that you love them so much that you're willing to pay attention to their love language. I can't remember the last time I was trying to help a couple where the love language weren't a huge part of the conversation. Sometimes a couple I've helped may call me a few months later with an issue, and I'll ask about the love language, and they'll go, "Oh man, I haven't been paying attention. Man, thank you for reminding me." So there's another topic around communication that comes up just about every single time, and that is what we're going to talk about today: expectations. If you think about it, if there's ever going to be an issue, chances are it's going to be somewhere around unmet expectations. You thought you were free to play golf on Saturday, and she thought you were going to spend the day with her. She thought you liked mom's casserole, and he thought you knew that he didn't. She thought you knew the kids had a ton of homework, and he thought it was a great night to take the kids to play basketball. He thought it was a good night to invite people over, and she thought the house was nasty and it was a terrible night to invite people over. He thought his wife was going to take the kids to ball practice, and she thought her husband was going to take the kids to ball practice. I could go on and on and on, but I want to share some things about expectations that will change your marriage. I'm not kidding or exaggerating. What I'm about to share with you will change your life. This is such a big deal that I have an entire chapter in my 17 Laws of Marriage book devoted just to expectations. So I want to go into detail several facts around expectations. And you'll need to keep in mind this is an area that can destroy your marriage, or at the very least make the marriage miserable, if you don't pay attention to what I'm talking about. There are several aspects to expectations. You want to set reasonable expectations, set them early, and stick to them. I'll start with setting expectations and setting them early. For years, every Sunday, Tracy and I look at our calendars for the week and share notes to make sure we're on the same page. We literally go day by day and night by night to make sure we are all on the same page. It may be something like this. Okay, Monday we don't have anything. Tuesday I'll take Mark to football practice. Wednesday is date night. Thursday we're invited to Bob and Mary's for dinner. Friday Mark has a ball game. Saturday we don't have anything planned, so maybe that'll be family night. Now, if we're in agreement, there are no surprises, and if something comes up each day, we know where each other will be. And so, for example, like this, I have football practice with Mark, so since it's 20 minutes away, I may call a buddy of mine to have dinner while he's at football practice. This isn't a big deal because I'm already in another town. I'm already there for the duration, so there's no surprises. However, if on a night we have plans, if I texted Tracy and said, hey, I'm having dinner with a buddy tonight, you can imagine how stressful that could be since she already planned on cooking dinner and I changed all the plans at the last minute. So, of course, there's some flexibility for the crazy world. Things happen. Like, for example, if my buddy's wife just kicked him out of the house and he needed to talk to someone, of course, Tracy would understand. But early on in our marriage, much of our stress was due to misguided, miscommunicated, and unmet expectations. Much of those expectations were never mentioned, talked about, texted, or even emailed, but rather just assumed. I would wake up on Saturday morning getting the kids ready for a bike ride while Tracy was knee-deep in trying to clean the house. I was thinking, why in the world would you clean the house on a Saturday? And she was thinking, why in the world would you not clean the house on Saturday? We were stressing each other out, but neither of us was wrong and neither of us was right. The only thing we failed to do is set each other's expectations and communicate those expectations. For future Saturdays, we talked about it before Saturday and came up with a plan. Sometimes it was clean the house for 2 hours and then head out. Sometimes we might make it a fun day and clean another day. No matter what we did, we were on the same page and the stress levels were so low. Attitudes were so much better. This may sound like common sense. But I see it all the time where one family member surprises the other and things go sideways. And I don't mean surprising them with a new car. So we used to have family night where we all stayed together as a family, just the people who lived at our house. We would swap out on what we did. Nothing was in stone except for the fact that we were going to be there. No exceptions. Sometimes we had to move family night around, but once we had family night in stone, everyone came. Sometimes we'd watch movies, ride bikes, grill out, play games, or whatever. But whatever we did it as a family. Any time someone forgot or couldn't come to family night, man, it created some bad attitudes. Most every time someone came up with something at the last minute, it was something that could have been shared well before that night so we could all set our expectations. We have 4 kids, and the older they got, the more activities we had, and the more difficult it was to plan family night, which made it even more important to communicate which night. So to keep this on track, we started including the kids on our Sunday ritual of going through the weekly calendar and setting everyone's expectations. Once we started doing this, we didn't have any more issues, barring an emergency or something happened. So again, set expectations and set them early. Now here's a huge part of who we are And everyone in our family knows this. They all have said this 100 times. Do what you're going to say you're going to do. Do what you're going to say you're going to do, even if it's inconvenient, painful, or expensive. Be a person of character and do what you say you're going to do. This seems so easy to understand, but I see this level of trust broken somewhere almost on a daily basis. All of us knows that one person who's on a text thread or an email where everybody plans something, and every one of you know exactly that one person who's going to back out at the last minute. We know who that is. Please don't be that person to your spouse. Since this is about marriage and communication, Tracy and I have a date night pretty much every week. It's on the calendar and nothing changes it. Nothing. She never, ever, ever has to worry about me surprising her with it not happening. Sure, things come up, but I do what I say I'm going to do no matter what. We're going to have date night, even if something comes up. Sure, I may be traveling, but I know that well in advance. I convey that to Tracy so we can make alternative plans and pick another day so there's no surprises. So in my world, I can't leave work at an exact time every day, so I'll text Tracy when I figure out what time I'm heading home. She knows it's a moving target, but when I do share with her what time I'll be home, you can set your watch by it. If I tell her 6 p.m., it will be 6 p.m. or sooner. If it has to change for whatever reason, the very first second I realize it can't be 6 or before, I'm texting her. I'm setting those expectations. She never, ever, ever, ever has to be looking out the door at 6:05 wondering where I am, because I do what I say I'm going to do, no matter if it's painful, inconvenient, or expensive. I want all couples to have that level of confidence with their spouse to know that they can trust their spouse no matter what. Here are some real examples I've seen over the years. One year, around January, a husband told the family they were going to Disney for their summer vacation. He never told them otherwise and had heard them talk about it for months. However, when it came time to go, they weren't going to Disney at all. Keep in mind, they would have been fine not going, but Dad told them they were going, and he never shared otherwise. And not even to his wife. He took them to the beach, but he could not understand why they were upset. Well, they were upset because he told them one thing, and they told their friends about it, and they were excited about it, and they'd already Googled all the parks to see what their favorite ride was going to be, and at the last minute, without any explanation, it all changed. What really happened is that Dad promised something and it didn't happen. And there was a level of trust lost with the family. And so the next time, I guarantee you, if he said we're going to Disney this year, nobody would believe it until they walked into the parks. Now here's another one. A friend of mine scheduled Thanksgiving dinner at his house, and only by accident did his wife discover his plan about 3 days before that he had invited all the family over. Can you imagine her stress level? So set expectations, whether it's bad or good news. One mom who was in charge of finances for the family told her children they could buy a trampoline and on the last day of school, only if everyone achieved excellent report cards. Motivated, the children studied hard, received good grades, and looked forward to the last day of school. In the meantime, Mom discovered she didn't have enough money to buy the trampoline. Too embarrassed to tell them, not wanting to disappoint, she simply ignored the situation altogether. She hoped her family would forget or something magical would happen so they could pull off the purchase. She avoided setting expectations because it would have been bad news. On the last day of school, her children found out the truth the hard way. They were much more disappointed than they would have been if she just had told them the truth. And her defense wasn't my fault, the money just wasn't there. But that wasn't the issue. The trust was gone. Sure, no one died, but this situation was much harder on the family than it had to be. I met a couple who made weekend plans together. He was excited about it, only to find out at the last minute she had invited her mom to join. Now, he loved his mother-in-law, but that really wasn't the point. So one husband I met told his wife, hey, get ready for a nice dinner out. She bought a new dress for the occasion and told her friends about it all week, how she's looking forward to their special evening together. When Saturday arrived, they left for their special date, and he pulled up to a fast food restaurant. And he said, I don't feel like waiting 30 minutes in line for a nicer place. Now, that was a horrible decision on his part. Did she have something against fast food? Absolutely not. Was it about that? No, it was about his trust. He said, this is what we're going to do, and it didn't happen. It's a shame, but even around our circle of friends, we invite folks or our children make plans and they get canceled at the last minute because someone didn't communicate to someone else. They said yes to us, said yes to something else, and when it came down to where they would break the promise, they chose us. The sad part is they put themselves in a position to have to break a promise. What they really have done over the years is set our expectations so if they promise something that we don't know if it's really going to happen or not. It's not that we are cynical. It's just the track record is such that this makes sense. This is why you should set expectations, stick to them no matter what, because it's also about communicating trust. Now, let me talk to you about setting reasonable expectations. In my previous examples, I spoke about how we all had those people who say they're going to do something, and we all know they probably wouldn't. Well, my thought is this. I think when they commit, they really want to do whatever it is they commit to. I think they think it's a great idea. They just have not taken the time to review their calendar and their life to see if it's possible. Since they may be, I don't know, maybe unorganized, most likely. And when they finally get around to their calendar at the last minute, they have to make a decision that's going to harm their character and hurt some feelings. All this pain can be avoided. Also, I think initially their heart's desire was to do it all. Maybe I can do it all. What they're doing is not setting reasonable expectations. You can't be in two places at the same time. As much as you want to do both, you can't. So let people know early. And since we're talking about marriage, let's get very specific so that your character as a husband or wife is not in jeopardy. I want Tracy to bank on what I say no matter what. If I tell Tracy I will clean up the basement when I get home, she needs to bank on that I will clean it up. I forgot is a character flaw. And in my opinion, it's the same as lying. I forgot is not acceptable. You didn't do what you said you were going to do. You either do it or you don't. If I tell Tracy I'll clean it up when I get home, no reasonable person would expect me to clean it up before I get home. So no harm, no foul. It only becomes an issue when we are going to bed and I'm not cleaned it up. In this case, it really happened. I had a huge project going on in the basement, and Tracy had someone coming over the next morning. If I didn't clean it up, she would have to get up early and clean up my project. She wouldn't mind doing it, but it was complicated, heavy, and she wouldn't know what to do with all my stuff. So if you say, I'll wash your car this week, then by Friday, a reasonable person may ask, are you still planning on washing my car? If I say that on Monday, no one should be upset by Monday night if it's not washed. So we're setting reasonable expectations. If Tracy and I plan a date night to be Wednesday night, then no reasonable person would be upset that we didn't have a date night on Tuesday night. If Tracy says dinner will be ready at 7, no matter how hungry I am and how many hours have passed since I've eaten, no reasonable person would expect dinner before 7 o'clock. Conversely, if I plan to do something at 6 to 6:45, no reasonable person would be upset that I wasn't at dinner before 7. If I tell Tracy I'll call her at lunch, no reasonable person would be upset if I didn't call her before lunch because I've set the expectation and a reasonable expectation. If Tracy and I agree that we need to save money to buy a new car and that it's going to take 18 months to do so, no reasonable person will be upset that we hadn't purchased a car in 6 months because we set reasonable expectations. I know I could give hundreds of examples, but I think you get the point. If your spouse is upset at you about something, you can probably assume it's because of unmet expectations. Here are some more places where you need to set expectations and not just assume. First of all, set expectations on date night. Are you going to have one? Are you not going to have one? Set expectations on how you're going to discipline your children. Are you going to spank or time out or merely hope they figure it out on their own? Set expectations on how you'll discuss your sex life. Chances are one of you wants more sex than the other. What do you do if you're tired? By the way, I devoted a whole chapter to this topic. Set expectations on weekly plans while not at work. This means your evenings, weekends, days off, that sort of thing. Set expectations on financial plans and budget. Who's going to handle the budget? Where are you going to spend your money? Set expectations on how you're going to handle large purchases. How much can you spend without talking to the other? $100, $500? Set expectations on your savings plans or lack of savings plans. Honey, we're broke. We plan to stay that way. Or, honey, a rich uncle gave me $1 million. We're set for life. Okay. Set expectations on church plans. Are you going to go? When? Where? Set expectations on what you're going to do with your children's time. How much video time can they have? Why this matters is because one spouse may not care and the other says, hey, I want it limited. Okay. I think I'll stop here and save more communication ideas for another show and perhaps to answer some of the questions that keep rolling in. I summarized the previous show, so if you've not seen it, go back and watch it or listen to it. On this show, it's about setting reasonable expectations and keeping them so that no matter if it's painful, expensive, or inconvenient, you got to keep those. And if you're having issues, it's usually somewhere around unmet expectations. There may be a myriad of reasons for unmet expectations, but they're there nonetheless. Now, on a positive note, the better you become at setting expectations, the happier and stronger your marriage will become. If you live up to those expectations you've set, your character, trust level from your spouse skyrockets. Marriages stay strong when each spouse can trust the other no matter what. Okay. Hey, when you have a moment, check out the 17laws.com where you can read about my blog and sign up for it. Order my books, The 17 Laws of Parenting, The 17 Laws of Marriage. Check out the Marriage Commitment Challenge coin. It is so cool. You'll love it. See you next time.